Bob, how's going? How's going? And today, like every other day, when you see me speaking to that guy there, you know we are talking everything around bond originations. What is bond originations? Bond origination is when a person like you and I, who's a property investor, we're going to buy a property out there and we are looking to buy it. You don't go directly to the bank on your own. You need a middleman. You need someone who's going to grease it for you, right? Because the conversation might just become a little bit tense between you and the bank. And that guy there is the one who's going to grease it for you to make sure that when you ask for a lower fee in terms of interest, he knows the tactics and he will speak on your behalf. Hey, Christian, how's it going? Welcome aboard. Christian, you've been with the banks for a long time, and I just want to ask here, when I talk about this greasing of the bank, you being the middleman, how long has it taken you to run your own shop and for you to be able to speak to the banks so that you can now start to make this as a business?
Yeah, so the first part, I would say maybe the first 2 years was still a little bit of a stop-start, gradually getting into it and gradually building up a commission pipeline for myself to create stability. And that's also where I started building up more knowledge, especially as I started venturing more towards the property investors and the more complex transactions. I made a point of scheduling calls and meetings with credit managers, with some of the bank's regional managers to hash out different approaches to deals to make it a little bit easier for me to put something together and to get successful transactions through. That doesn't mean that every transaction is successful, but I'd say it was about 2.5 years before I got to a proper point of confidence of knowing, okay, well, as the transaction comes in, I just literally scan through the basics. I know, okay, cool, this is an easy deal. Let's get it done. And there we go. And similarly, so when you look at some of them, we just think, okay, no, this one's going to take some greasing.
Okay. Now, you've been in the business for a while, and I almost want to ask the question to say, the question that I'm going to ask you now is, people are always asking the question, who pays the bond originator? TJ, do you pay Christian? TJ, do you pay for the bond origination? And I'm always like saying, no, all the time, right? But the model of bond origination, has it ever changed from when you started or the history when you started it? Let's just jump on into why are bond originators in place before we even answer that question, Christian?
So
what's your opinion?
My relevance comes in with the fact that I deal with one banking product. When you go to your banker, they have to have basic knowledge and understanding of a bouquet of products. So whatever you need to go to them to try and get it. And unfortunately, that means that a lot of them are not equipped to best position a transaction. With a plain, straightforward, easy deal, it might be comfortable to just deal with your banker. But similarly so, you have no assurance of that rate being competitive, being the best one you can get in the market. I've got many an example of that also where the client's own bank did not give the best rate. I literally had one today where one of the other competing banks was offering a 0.35% discount to what that client's own bank was offering. So first and foremost, I look at myself as a mortgage specialist. And then secondly, I'm there to keep your bank accountable.
My mentor always says to me that I always need to have a middleman to grease my deals. And I'm like, so when I heard that statement at first, I was like, what does that mean? And he says to me, number one, if you're a good negotiator, it's going to become difficult at some point once you're negotiating. So you need someone to grease it. So basically, someone who's going to come in and put in the oil so that both sides, eventually the deal is going to make sense. Traditionally, when I come through to a person like you, and we're still talking here about who pays, the bond originator. Traditionally, when I come to you and I say to you, hey, Christian, I've got a deal here. I think people in most cases, they just get the deal and they give it to you, and then you taking the paperwork, and they get a 5%, 10%, or whatever percentage that they're going to get, they accept it, right? Because they're like, whew, at least I got a bond, right? However, what I've also seen here is that you can have a person like me who will then negotiate a little bit harder and say, no, Christian, I'm not going to pay 13%. Can we pay 10%? Right? So can you go back to the bank? I'm looking for 13% on this deal. Is it possible for me to push back? It depends on where you are in your level of investments now, right? Or even it all depends on who you are in terms of your assets, right? Or in terms of your credit profile and things like that. And I've seen some of the mechanisms that some people would utilize is comparing between banks. But I don't want to be at all the banks. I just want to be with that particular bank. And this is the way the greasing for me starts talking sense. Now I push back. Let's assume that it was a 10% and I'm wanting an 8%. So I push back. Does that have an effect on you getting paid?
No, it's of no consequence to me. And that's one of the most important things to also remember. There's a lot of misperceptions when you look at how originators get paid, where some guys, and it's primarily bankers who don't always like us, who would say that originator is going to go to the bank that gives them the most commission. There's no difference. I get paid exactly the same from every single bank. And with that, it is imperative that I get you the best possible deal, because I would like you to refer your friends and family to me because you got good service. So on sustainability of business, it's imperative that I get you the best possible deal, and it's of no consequence to me. I know now recently F&B made a bit of a change to their origination commissions, which also now filter down into all of the different businesses and on consultant level. But that's of no consequence to me. Because on a point, I think it was 0.005 or something, it's $50 per million difference. I'm not going to now say, no, I'm not going to deal with them because they're paying me less. Because if that's your bank and you want to be with them, it's in my best interest long term to still make sure that you get a deal that you're happy with.
I like that. In terms of now getting paid, so you need to get paid. You're working here, right? This is a business for you, and me and you having a relationship doesn't count, and not unless we're exchanging money here, right? So for you to work for me in all my deals that I'm going to bring forward to you, because you're doing a great, amazing job, who pays you?
The banks, though, pay me. So on registration of that bond, the banks pay us. We see our commission about a week and a half after registration of the bond.
So if I bring a deal to you today, I just want to make it very clear. I bring a deal to you today. What is the process there up until to the time that you get paid? You've never known me. You don't know me from no bar soap. This could be someone else who's listening. Yes, I know you. You might be looking for a bond originator. That guy will help you. So, Christian, the question is, if that guy there sends us the link, so in the description there, you can find the link in which you can reach out to Christian directly. And the question I'm asking that Christian now is, this person here comes through. What is the baby step up until to the time that you are going to get paid?
So let's take a plain, straightforward, vanilla deal that's easy to run through. That would mean on day one, we submit to the banks. By day 3 or day 4, we'll have our approvals from the banks subject to valuation. By day 8, we will have a final approval. So at that point, when you accept whichever bank it then is that you're going to proceed with, it will go to the attorneys. Roughly takes about 4 to 5 days for them to get all of their ducks in a row in terms of getting all of the documentation set up, drafted, and all of that. At that point, you then go to the attorneys and you go and sign your documents. So now, conservatively speaking, we're probably going to be at the end of week 3. At that point, the attorneys will have their guarantee requirements and everything set up from the bond attorneys, as well as start applying for rates clearances with the municipalities, and if it's a sectional title property, the body corporate. And once all of those clearance figures have been issued, you can quite conservatively, especially nowadays, bargain on about a week and a half to 2 weeks to get clearance figures. Those need to then be paid. That gets paid by the seller. And once the seller has paid that, they'll get a clearance certificate. With that whole package completed, they will then request a proceed to lodge from the banks. And this can easily be at the end of week 5 now already. The banks will then give the proceed to lodge, and 10 to 15 working days later, the bond will transfer, or the property will transfer and the bond will register. So I'd say 7.5 to 9 weeks after you gave me that offer to purchase, I will hear of the registration of the bond, and about 2 weeks thereafter, I'll see my income. So it's roughly about a 3-month wait.
I know in the previous video you did say that this is a patience game. Now I understand why. Yeah. Anyways, Christian, it's been great speaking to you today. So ladies and gentlemen, now you know, whenever you are engaging a guy like this one, a bond originator, a finance guy who's going to bring in all your deals together and go to the bank and find you the money, the right money at the right interest that's good for you and good for your deals, then you will never pay him. Actually, the banks will pay him. We'll take you on the next video.